Hello, Next Geners. Welcome to our Monday review show. It wasn't a Group 1 weekend, although I know I've won back-to-back Group 1 tipping comps against you in the first 2 weeks, and I had a Group 1 weekend as well on Saturday, Hayden.
It was another very good weekend, wasn't it? Excellent weekend of racing. I think we knew one was a superstar. We had everything pointing in the direction that the other was, but when they come off a Brisbane Carnival, we still question it just that little bit. And we like to see them on the big stage. He certainly delivered.
What I think is really interesting, considering all the discussion around the pattern, is we're a month into the season and we've had two Group 1s. And I think it's fair to say the two winners we're talking about on Saturday, Nature Strip and Zaaki, neither Group 1 races. And I think your data, would suggest that they were both Group 1 performances. So really interesting when we discuss the pattern, the fact that the best two performances so far this season weren't in the only two Group 1 races we've run.
Yeah, I'm not big on the historics of racing or the time honoured and all that sort of rubbish. I just watch whatever race we've got on the weekend. That's what comes up. So I don't know how much COVID's having to do with this, with the border restrictions and difficulties with staff and trainers. And there must be a little bit of thought process in the back of trainers' minds. Do I want to cross the border early and lose my rider? Because when you're talking about guys like James McDonald and Tom Berry, Hugh Bowman, Nashua Willer, etc., they're as much, if not more, a part of it than the horse itself. So, you'd be nervy as an owner or a trainer sending your horse into state when you can just show up in your backyard and win good races for good money.
I think it's got more to do with the discussion we had last week with Sam Lyons, in that I think owners and connections and trainers are getting smarter by not necessarily looking for a Group 1 to kick off the campaign for a Group 1 horse. We saw Behemoth a number of years in a row now kick off in Adelaide and in the Spring Stakes. We're seeing Probabeel kick off over 1,200 in a mares race instead of going to a race like the Memsie, and that I think that builds confidence. And you've got Nature Strip and Zaaki. Both of them could have run in. Well, Nature Strip, we haven't had a Group 1 sprint yet, but Zaaki could have easily run in the Winx Stakes or the Memsie. And no, they picked an easier kickoff point, and quite the performance. And I think we can get pretty excited about both those horses going forward. We'll take a deeper dive into those races. Just quickly wrap up your thoughts on Moonee Valley. The rain stayed away, and thought we had a decent addition. It might not have been fantastic on the clock, the Fian Stakes, but I think we both said if there was one horse that won't look out of place from that field in a Cox Plate, it would be Superstorm. And Ollie rode for luck and got there.
It was an interesting day. First off, kudos to the track managers there. They do a great job. I know Marty Son and the team, one of the guys is Sam Tankard, who's quite vocal on, he's quite interactive with people on Twitter about the race track, and they're happy to give some feedback and whatnot. I thought, fantastic call not to water the track. It played really well. When you were going back and doing historical form on what happened when it was Armageddon, and we were discussing the points of, first time around, the track falls apart towards the inside. Second time around, you have to be hard on the fence to win. So, good even day. Winners come anywhere from lanes 2 to lane 7. I was impressed by Superstorm. I thought he was a really good winner. We pinned pre-race that, he was the one who looked like the Cox Plate runner out of everybody, where the others would sort of find their level, and they'd find it quickly in the spring. The sort of horses like Elephant, Streets of Avalon, Shot of Irish, Share Sue, those style of horses, they hit their level in the spring. They have the reset, and then we see them back late into the Flemington Carnival. He was good. Oliver's ride was even better. But, he's going to be a progressive horse this spring. There's a bit to come from him.
Yeah, so let's just quickly look a bit further at that race. They didn't go overly quick through the first section, but nice mid-race squeeze. And Superstorm didn't lose much condition late, so he obviously took good fitness first up to second up. But as he said, there's a bit more to come, probably more so in that early speed.
Yeah, for sure. The squeeze through the mid-race, statistically, it doesn't look like it's that big. These horses, there's a bit of power in between that section between the 8 and the 6. Horses started to fatigue off the slight slowdown, suffered between the 6 and the 4. They couldn't really regather and go again, which made those who pulled out wide, looking for the faster lanes on the track. They basically fatigued and didn't have any sprint left at the end of the race. It was a last man standing job. That's where the Oliver Smarts come in. And instead of trying to track wide, he felt the horse around the corner and thought, if I go wide, I'm gone. I need to revert back to the inside. It was more of a case of who was stopping the slowest rather than who was sprinting home. So he's had a little decline last 200. I'm a big fan of this horse, and he's got some big numbers to his name back from his WA profile. So, he's soft and he's underdone. He's going to have a lot of improvement to come. He's going to go miles past this lot. And then we've got our group of handicapped stayers, all returned well. I was taken by the performance of Sound back in the field. I thought he was excellent, but he does love the Moonee Valley circuit, so you've got to give him a little bit extra for that. But I thought he was really good. And in regards to the others, the Chosen One, he was excellent. He looks like he's in for another really good spring. And I couldn't really knock those out the back. They couldn't get into the race, and they're 1,000,000 from the position that they were in, which were Dawn Patrol and Realm of Flowers. They were the two out the back that I gave pass marks to.
Yep. Okay. And you had done, well, when we did the preview on Friday, you hadn't done a stack of work into Dawn Patrol and Port Guillaume. Obviously, Port Guillaume beaten 7.4 lengths, but further than that, I think about 8 lengths, but hadn't been seen for over a year. But Dawn Patrol, pass mark for Dawn Patrol going forward to probably races over further and perhaps even a Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, Melbourne Cup might be a bit of a stretch. Kyneton Cup might be more in its favour, but we'll see how he goes.
All right. So Superstorm's second best performance of the day. The best performance goes to Inferno, the Inferno, and we hadn't actually previewed this race on Friday, we obviously put a few tips up on the Facebook page. We had September Run amongst our tips. The three of those horses across the line first, the Inferno, Portland Sky, September Run. We obviously know Portland Sky, an Oakley Plate winner, September Run, also a Group 1 winner in the Coolmore. But the Inferno was a horse that we actually spoke to Zach Purton about ahead of the championships in December. He was due to ride this Singapore horse and the horse ended up getting scratched and we didn't see it run at Sha Tin. But second run in Australia for Cliff Brown, sharp improvement between runs.
Yeah, he came in with an OS profile anywhere between that +1 and +3 range. He's gone right to that. Best of the day, 1.8 lengths above. They've gone out at a steady speed. They haven't done anything special early. They've gone out at a benchmark speed. They've had a bit of a slowdown and a bit of a bludge through the mid-race and basically made it a fastest last 400 home. They've made it a real 400-metre dash. He had the best turn of speed and he had the rider who premeditated what was going on and took advantage of it at the time. He was excellent. He doesn't have a hell of a lot of improvement in him. He's approaching his level. He might have a length and a touch under his sleeve, which would put him back into that Singapore profile. Portland Sky was a pass mark, bad race shape for him. Slowdown killed him. Forgive and forget. He'll bounce off that run. September Run, I thought she was okay. She's going to have the picket fence profile from a raw sectional perspective, but I couldn't really give her any more than a pass mark. She'll get one more chance with me. It'll be at Flemington.
Yeah.
You know, she's got that monster sprinting profile down the straight, but she doesn't look, she looks like a shadow of herself from, you know, when we were discussing her 12 months ago, that she had the potential to be one of the big monsters in the sprinting. In the sprinting runners, she doesn't look like she's ready to go anywhere near that. So I'll give her nothing but a pass mark. Definitely not as excited about her as what many will be. You know, a lot of people like to get up and about when they see the fastest lasts, the 6, the 4, the 2.
Yeah.
You know, you can wrap that up into a bullshit bag and throw that out the door. Not interested in any of that for mine. She's a pass only. The rest of those are no hope over the spring in anything.
All right. And Cliff Brown, after the race, was put it on the agenda. He wants to see the Inferno in the Everest, thinks he can compete. Is he an Everest horse?
The one in Sydney, the Everest.
Yeah. We're not talking about the Kosciuszko.
No hope. None.
All right. That sums it up. Did you want to discuss any other races at Moonee Valley? I'll have a look around. Obviously, Express Pass was a nice winner earlier in the day. Zuzarella got the job done in that, I think it was a 2-year-old's race, or was it a 3-year-old's race? We obviously, Argentia was very unlucky for the same stable. And De Graves just got the job done over the likes of Harder Passants and Dr. Drill and Beraid and Ladon de V. Worth touching on any others from Moonee Valley?
I gave Zuzarella a pass mark. I'll be looking forward to her getting out to a different track. I'd like to see her run around Caulfield. Argentia, there was a little bit of up in the airs of Argentia should have won. I thought Argentia was well and truly gone before it. You know, just because you see a horse don't get through a gap, most of the times because they're, most of the time the visual doesn't match the facts. I thought Ollie was feeling for her a long way out. She was reported lame.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. And I think she was, whatever happened to her happened to her before she got cut out. Oliver was feeling for her, felt she was under pressure and was looking for that inside run line. When 2 horses go for a gap and one gets squeezed out, it's normally the one who's going no good.
Yeah.
So I didn't visually think she should have won by any stretch of the imagination, and I think she was gone before she missed the run. So, you know, she's a horse that, you know, if she wasn't reported lame, she's the style of horse that I would take on 100% next start. But I can't do that because I need to forgive her if she was lame, because she is talented.
All right, let's have a look at Sydney then. Race 5 was all about Nature Strip, and he was brilliant. Absolutely stunning performance. His best work was actually the last 200 meters, where he actually just kicked away with them with ease. Some of the other runners, Wild Ruler, Trekking, even Handle the Truth, very strong late. But yeah, this was perfect sort of setup for Nature Strip, wasn't it? Just below benchmark, or a couple lengths below benchmark through the first section, increase speed through the middle section, and then just dash away from them late.
Yeah, he's got he's a horse who's always had the profile that he could be really brutal early and bust them up in terms of speed. But the first section with him is really interesting, because if he gets through the first section within himself, like what he did on the weekend, there's basically nothing that can go with him. You know, that was a powerful, powerful last 600. He did that like he was trialing. You know, between the 6 and the 4, he's had almost a 3-length increase in speed. He's maintained that speed from the 4 to the 2, because J-Mac knew that it was game over at that point. And then he's just given him his head and basically trialled him home 11-18. You know, that's a pretty brutal return. from an IVR perspective, it wasn't to the level of what he returned at last time when he was beaten by G-Tra, but there was no reason for him to try and force that extra length and a half out of him and push him into that 6 range. This is the best he's had in terms of return lead up in the direction of an Everest, because this is no gut buster. Every other time he's been asked to go to the bottom of the well, there's not much from a statistical point of view from me to say that he's not in career best.
Yeah, no, he actually ran a better figure in this race than he did in the Lightning Stakes first up in the autumn behind Jamie Carr, and a lot of, with Jamie Carr on board, and a lot gets spoken about Nature Strip being a better horse in the autumn than in the spring. But as you said, he's returned in really good order, and he hasn't had that bust up.
Yeah, a lot of people just roll up as much crap as they can and start to believe it. And then when they're sitting down, they're trying to make an assessment on a race, just have so many clouds around them that outside of the bull dust, they can't make a proper decision. And that's the reason this horse has gone around $1.60.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't a $1.60 chance on the weekend. As we discussed on the preview show, that if he goes to anywhere near any of his other first up performances, he beats them. And then you see a raw statistic of 1 in 4 or whatever first up, and people go, he doesn't go first up, or he only goes the autumn, or, there's a lot of bull dust in there, mate.
Yeah. All right. Next race was race 6, 1,200 meters. This was the 3-year-olds. And I thought Jamea was a really strong performance here. The horse that I gave a little bit of a spec at big odds, Enterprise Pom, just led this field at benchmark level. And Jamea was 9 lengths behind the lead speed. That's usually, beyond the winning band, isn't it? Massive mid-race squeeze, 10.5 lengths, and then finish with plus 4.1 last section. I reckon that's a pretty handy performance.
It's a good performance. Off that race shape and off that tempo, that's the expected, there's part of this that's expected from a type of runner like this, going 9 lengths below through the first section. The squeeze not excessive, a 10-length squeeze through the mid. It's just basically going through the gears and squirting home plus 4, combined last 400. Last 200 plus 2.4, a little bit of an acceleration there. The reason that this looks fantastic to the eye, and then you go back to a statistical perspective and go, well, it looks fantastic, but when you're running past slow horses, who couldn't cope with the squeeze and fell in a hole, that's the style of run that normally gets beaten 2 to 4 lengths, and you go, okay, there's the flash home runner. Well, she's been good enough just to put up the substandard flash home run and beat them. I've got a little bit of a concern with this lot. I don't think they're much good.
So that includes She's All Class, 4 moves ahead, Swift Witness, Naj Marty, Mallory, a horse that had form around some of the good 2-year-olds in the spring. It looked like those horses had their chance.
Well, when you're running these sort of numbers, it's very difficult to say that everyone hasn't had every possible chance.
Yep.
And the only chance of one of these going to another level is she who can handle a lot more pressure early.
Yep.
This is a fantastic building run for a lot of these, and there could be some hidden gems there, but they're definitely not runners that you're going to jump in and say, we've found that dominant filly. With when you go back 12 months ago and you start to unearth a Hungry Heart or something, and you say, okay, we've unearthed the little dominant one, and she's going to be hard to beat. Or you find a Montefilia, who's
or a
dominant,
Dame Giselle,
or a Dame Giselle. These things wouldn't blow smoke up the backsides of those 3-year-old fillies. So whoever it is hidden, and there's going to be a lot of tricksters here, like. I'm convinced Naj Marty, or whatever its name is, fooled half the population with that bull dust run back at Caulfield. Yep. It's jumped $5 in this and there's no hope. So, her, Jamea, 4 moves ahead, I was a fan of Swift Witness leading up. Her last up win wasn't anything great on the clock, and she was there to win. And she just went pop in the last, the last 400. She just went pop. She had the ideal run. She was probably the poorest of the lot. She's all class, had the silicone in the hooves, the hoof filler, and that I'm not sure whether that was on or that came off.
Yeah.
But she's another one who they've had just golden race shapes and couldn't sprint. So I'm jury out on the whole lot, including the winner.
All right, race 7. Zaaki, the Cox Plate favourite, resumed in amazing style. I'm not sure we've seen, or obviously Winks won 4 Cox Plates, but I'm not sure we've seen a horse like this just come out and just put the writing on the wall first up and just say the Cox Plate's mine. Who else wants to come and catch me? 5 lengths below benchmark through the first section, 8-length mid-race squeeze was going +3 through the second section and just really held them off. And as you said in the preview on Friday, they might just take this as a barrier trial and blow out the cobwebs. That's exactly what they did with Zaaki.
Oh, that was at what point of that race did you know that was game over? What part of that did you say, oh, no, this is...
Oh, I just wanted to see that turn of foot sort of from the as they came into the straight, and they went from the 800 to the 600. She's going, Zaaki, sorry, he's going 1.1 above benchmark and just cranked it up and just peeled outside the leaders, and the leaders were sort of going backwards, weren't they? Man of Peace was only leading at 2 lengths below benchmark. He ended up finishing last. Dreamforce, news today that Dreamforce has been retired. One of your favourites, certainly. But as you said on Friday, a bit long in the tooth. And, Zaaki just peeled outside those runners and put them away in a couple of strides. You knew pretty quickly that it was game over.
Oh, for sure. You sit back and you say, when you're watching races like this, sometimes the questions of why someone is the best gets answered. And this guy's a pretty special rider. When you go and have a look, I know they're the best horses. I completely understand that. And I know talent level versus the opposition, they're superior in every possible way, but you can't really ride 2 horses better than what he's produced with Nature Strip and then on Zaaki. Like, that's just a guy who's thriving on pressure. The Nature Strip ride was a 10 out of 10. This was an 11 out of 10. He had them in his sights. He knew what he was doing. Pulls the fastest part of the track. Unleashes for 600 metres and then pulls him up last 200, still comes home +1. Combined last 400 plus 3.5 lengths above. The race was pretty much curtains once the rain fell, because that took his 2 big rivals. The 2 big rivals, Rock and Lions Raw, took them right out of play. Both of them 8 wet ground. And the second the rain fell, it was curtains for both of those. So, he had an underdone Star of the Seas. He had a horse like Arameo chasing him down. I was impressed by Arameo's performance. There's going to be a little bit of mayonnaise that last 200, but he was still increasing his speed late. So even the other ones throttled down. There's probably a 2 to 3 length differential just on the on J-Mac easing Zaaki down. So he's got a hell of a lot closer than what he should or would have. But I was taken by his performance. Star of the Seas, you alerted pre-race that you thought he might have been ready. He was one off. His little slowdown between the 4 and the 2, he's starting to scout back to his higher IVR profile. But he's a dangerous runner because we do know the tricks to him, and the tricks to him is he goes real big once and then he goes to sleep. So it'll be interesting what they say they do with him. He's the ideal horse to bring to Flemington.
He's grand finals next start, I reckon.
Quite possibly. He's definitely that one run away. I would love to see him in Melbourne because you just bash whatever he comes up against in Melbourne. then you can give.
Well, let's just stay on that for a sec. Mackaby Diva Stakes in 2 weeks, 1,600 metres weight for age. Up against maybe Moanga.
Yeah, Moanga will beat him. I'd like to see him at Flemington.
You might see him at $21 and $5 the place in a race like that. And I'd happily have something, small to win, big to place, because I think the Blamey second up last prep, he produced a 5.5, beating 50 Stars, another one of the horses that we like to see. Sort of, you can see when that run's coming. They've had that run where they're just 1 length above benchmark, 1.5 lengths. You're like, all right, they're ready next start. This screams that for me. Looks like, I'm happy to see where Star of the Seas goes next and have a crack. They might even try an Epsom, although he'd probably carry some weight in an Epsom, but why not? If he's got one big run left in him, set him up for a grand final, I say.
Yeah, if he's the style of horse who runs his grand final in the lead up and goes like a busted in the grand final. So you got to be wary of him. If he was mine, he'd go straight to the Epsom off that. He'd have a trial in between and go straight to the Epsom. So we'll see what Mr. Waller does with him. Just on Zaaki, when I was sitting there watching Zaaki, and then I went back and just relived the replay a couple of times, he really reminded me of Hartnell. He just screamed of Hartnell.
Yeah.
And Hartnell was a monster. Hartnell's career was downplayed significantly by coming through the Winx era. But if Hartnell comes through, the way the world felt about Hartnell before that Cox Plate, when it was like David versus Goliath. That was, he had the essence of that to me. He's a monster, mate. I don't think he'll, I'm of the opinion that nothing will beat him all spring, and it's going to have to take something pretty good to beat him in a Cox Plate.
I'm kicking myself a bit because I mentioned late on the show that there was a promo that Tab had for Zaaki to win 3 or more Group 1s this campaign. It was $13. I haven't had a look now. I can probably get it up and have a look, but you'd suspect that's about $4 now.
Will he run in 3 Group 1s though?
I think he will. I think they'll go 2 more runs, and then into the Cox Plate. So you might be looking at an Underwood into a Caulfield Stakes into a Cox Plate, or you might go George Main into a Caulfield Stakes into a Cox Plate. I think that looks like the standard scenario. There was an option for 4 Group 1s. I think that's a bit of a stretch unless they wanted to back up in like a McKinnon, where again the race would probably be at his mercy if they wanted to back up into McKinnon. Let me just get up the tab up now. Racing extras.
Well, he wins wherever he goes because everything runs off on him. He's the sort of horse where we're going to get 5 horses in the races that he goes if he comes to Melbourne.
Where you're getting $1.10 for him to win 1 Group 1 this campaign, $1.60 to win 2, or you're getting $5 to win 3, and you're now getting $13 to win 4 or more.
Yeah, well, you gotta have something wrong with you if you're taking that.
Yeah, 4 or more. Well, we never saw Winx back up into a McKinnon, which was probably a great shame. But Waller did a great job in just managing her career and peaking her for that race. But yeah, I would suspect that we might see Zaaki sort of go Underwood, Caulfield Stakes, or maybe the Turnbull, Underwood Turnbull. I'm not sure there's enough time between an Underwood and a Turnbull, but probably Caulfield Stakes on Guineas Day, 2 weeks before the Cox Plate. Makes sense there.
Craigie boy will be on, won't he?
Yes, well, he's in the box seat as far as I understand, and hopefully we can get Annabelle Neesham on the show sometime this spring, because we'd love to chat about this horse because he is going places. All right, let me go back into the IVR data. We've covered the 2 best performances of the day being Nature Strip and Zaaki. Think It Over. Well, Think It Over was the 3rd best performance of the day. And I think we said on the show that if there's one you could take on trust, it's probably Think It Over, because his last 5 or 6 runs have been very competitive at the elite level. You could see him running that 2.5 figure, giving the others something to chase. Well, he's actually run a +3. I'm not sure where that stacks up as PBs, but that was an elite level mid-race squeeze, and tired late but probably warranted.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good. I was more taken by the second horse.
Riadini was great.
I thought she was the better of the runs, or he was the better of the 2 runs, even though he's gone down in defeat. There was a big surge through the mid. It was a big surge. It was probably a touch excessive, but he must have felt like he was in a position to pinch it. And he went and he did it, and he was unlucky. He's only been beaten in the last couple of strides. So, Think It Over's had a superior run through in the race. Their squeezes were very similar. And he's come off the higher tempo. So, big surge through the mid-race. He's declined. Like, he was tough last 200. He's had a slight little increase in speed because there was a big slowdown for him between the 4 and the 2. The riders just thought, I could, if I just give him some oxygen here for a couple of strides, he might give me another kick in the late in the straight, and that's ultimately cost him the race. He had to maintain that speed and that pressure. That was excessive, that slowdown. Think It Over, he's just as honest as they come. He's got a ceiling. He's just about hit it. There's not much left in the tank for him. He's third best of the day, 3 lengths above. That's him. That's where he's at. Montefilia, she was a pass mark. I wasn't overly taken by her. She's a shadow of what she was. So she's definitely not a horse I'm going to get overly excited about. And she looked like the sucker run of the race. Cascadian, I honestly thought he was a little bit ordinary. But you can forgive him and give him one more. He might have just been a touch underdone. He had to surge. He surged a little bit harder through the mid than Think It Over. That might have just undone him fitness-wise. Shout Ambition, I thought he was good to get up on speed and get punchy. He looked like he might have even run off on them in the corner from the position that he was in. I was taken by him. He was a pass mark. He's in for a good spring. Then you go down, we put the warning bells on good friend of the show, She's Ideal. That she was going to be a sucker run from that first up, and she was going to start too short, and she was no hope. She's run accordingly with Kukaracha, both of them good. They're in for good campaigns. Kukaracha, if he's got a ceiling and he might not be good enough to compete at this level, Kukaracha. And you go after that. Probably the only disappointment in the race was Master of Wine. He's gone from, a dominant profile, looking like a potential Caulfield Cup winner, et cetera, to, he's at the moment, he'd be hard up beating Stewart's horse. So jury definitely out on the Master at the moment.
Yeah. And the challenge I had with Cascadian was obviously great run first up. And, I was tossing up between Cascadian and Think It Over and just thought, the odds on Think It Over, there should be not much between these 2 horses. The challenge I had with Cascadian was he produced 2 good runs first up last spring in the Lawrence and Memsey, but didn't really peak until his 5th run in the Cantala. You remember he ran massive second to Yulong Prince, beating Rock in the Cantala. So he took a few runs in that spring to get going. And I just had a sense that, perhaps he's run really well first up, but he's probably got a bit more match fitness to pick up to be peaking here. And I'm sure they've I'm sure Godolphin have a bigger grand final in mind than the race he ran in on the weekend, the Chelmsford. I'm sure they're getting him ready for a Group 1. And just on Riadini, you go back through Riadini's form and that run in the Epsom behind Probabile and Fun Star. Riadini's got another level to go to, certainly.
Will Riadini go for that mile race again?
Yeah, you'd be silly not to, I reckon.
And you'd be hard to beat in a race like that.
Up against a horse like Asar.
Asar?
Asar, Ayrton.
Ayrton? No, Ayrton's still got that one covered, but, he could give Ayrton a fright.
I think the thing about Riadini's performance in the Epsom last year was that they went helter-skelter through that first section, didn't they? I think Riadini was like +9 through the first section. And even a horse like Montefilia, you speak about perhaps not going back to that level. Her great runs, you'll remember, were out the back in extremely fast first section races where she was going 6, 7, 8 lengths above benchmark through the first section, yet she was out the back of the field. And the horses up front were doing sort of 10, 11, 12, and she was the last one standing. And like full credit, when they go so fast through the first section, you're going to produce those good numbers. But she really needs those races where they go absolutely silly up in front and she can actually sustain the pressure from back in the field. Is that fair?
Yeah, but I don't think she wants to go there anymore.
And that's another thing too, right? She went 2 or 3 runs in a row and didn't produce in the Oaks. Wasn't it the Flight Stakes and then the Spring Champion where she produced those massive numbers, both high exertion through the first section, but she was out the back and the others couldn't cope up the front. And then she couldn't do it in an Oaks for a third time when Personal beat her.
Yeah, that's the big question with her is that was her. That was where she had some X factor. And if she doesn't adopt the high pressure tactic, she comes right back to the field to the point where she's not even up to the standard. So she went from potential looking like a potential Cox Plate style of horse to there might not be anything left in the tank with her. So jury for her's just clean out for me. There's no hope I could entertain her until she does something that I'm not ready for.
Well, she's gone 9.6 lengths below benchmark through the first section. So I'd like to see her in a race where she does go a bit quicker up front. And we know that she can sustain it, but let's see if she can go back there because we are talking 12 months ago. All right, I think that's a wrap as far as the races over the weekend. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on? Was there a hidden run that you found across the 2 meetings?
Well, not so much a hidden run. I was taken by the performance. I posted it onto the Next Gen page of Nabu Attack. I'll be interested to get some. What was his name? Nabu. Not Nabu. Yeah, Nabu Attack.
Yep.
And the horse from the David Hayes camp, and he had the other one.
Nervous Witness.
Nervous Witness. I was taken by both of those performances.
That's at Shartin for anyone wondering.
That was at Shartin. We gave a little bit of a push for the Quinella in Nabu Attack's race. It was Nabu Attack and the other one that we can't remember his name.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either. I was a bit preoccupied on Sunday.
No, that's okay. I didn't think you'd be sitting down watching Hong Kong races while the new baby had arrived. Lucky Patch was the other one, and he was brave from a 3 wide on speed position. But Nabu Attack's definitely a horse that we want to keep a close eye on. Raced in Australia under the name of Command and Conquer up with the Steve Tregay colours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very difficult not to be impressed by good friend of the show, Zach Burton, with the next Silent Witness.
Yeah, Star Witness, you mean? Or progeny of Star Witness?
Yeah, but he had the Silent Witness look about him.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. That 1,000 meters is a very sucker sort of place. at Sha Tin. That outside rail is extremely fast.
Yeah.
If you recall the conversation that we had with Zach, I did give him the line of questioning regarding that 1,000-metre outside fence sort of setup. It's a lot different when we get around the corner. So we'll be interested to see what's under the bonnet there, and hopefully some big IVR figures to have a look at with that one.
All right. And it's actually the, I think I might have said on the show that Mackaby Diva Stakes, who did I mention could have been, I mentioned Star of the Seas heading to Mackaby Diva Stakes. That's actually this week. For some reason, I thought it was a Rupert Clark this week and the Mackaby Diva next week. But we'll be back on Friday to preview the Mackaby Diva Stakes, just having a quick look at the noms. Vow and Declare, Colette, Sir Dragonet, 50 Stars, Ki Nautique, the brother of Fierce Impact, who won this race last year, Tafane, Explosive Jack, Warning, Miami Bound, Hungry Heart, Johnny Get Angry, Inspirational Girl, Aegon. There'll be a few backers of Aegon in the Mackaby Diva Stakes, probably not us. Moanga, Imaging, Young Werther, Sierra Sue, Mount Popper, and the Cup's favourite, Incentivise. So a nice list of noms for the Mackaby Diva Stakes. And any punters out there feel like backing Aegon and want to take on Hayden, I'm sure he'll put his hand up for a head-to-head bet.
I'm going to have a few people coming at me, aren't I? If the A-list entertainment don't show up and the B grader and Aegon gets over the top of them, I think I'm going to get some feedback.
Well, maybe you'll put it out there now. Do you want to offer a slab up to anyone who can pick a horse? They take Aegon, you pick another horse head to head?
They would be very, very silly to do that, because if I do that, I'll pick the better horse and they will be taking better than even money about an even money bet. That's very silly on their behalf.
What if the challenge was for you to pick a horse that was lower in the market than Aegon to beat Aegon home?
Well, how about you raise that same question to me on
Friday?
On Friday. We'll have a head-to-head bet. I've got to pick one out in the market that beats Aegon home. And if
I'm not an Aegon fan, by the way. We need an Aegon fan out there that wants to take the bet.
No, I'm not I'm not negative towards the horse. I think he's a fantastic little racehorse. I just think that he might jam a few up with his little
closing sectional leg.
Yeah, Mr. Bulldust, 2.5, 3 lengths behind him. Watch me run home when it's all over. That sort of, when Shane McMahon used to jump into the ring really late and hit Hogan with the chair. It's like if he goes head to head with Hogan, he's no hope. But if you're going to come up from behind him and snipe him, then you're half a chance. We'll have a look. I'll pick a horse to beat Aegon home who's higher in the market than Aegon. And if Aegon beats me home, I'll donate $100 to Juvenile Diabetes Charity.
Okay, there we go.
Is that easy?
I think that's a great gesture from you, Hayden. So I'll hold you to it next Friday. See you then.
And congratulations on behalf of the Next Gen family to you and your beautiful wife, Claire, on your little baby daughter, Edith.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Shall we head in the form guide on Friday, I reckon?
She will. You make sure you get plenty of rest, because it's very important that dads get plenty of rest after the baby's born, because it's a tough time for the fathers. So you make sure you rest up, buddy. Put the feet up.
Thank you, mate. See you Friday.
Enjoy. Bye-bye.